Welcome to Chasing Hard podcast, where we talk about trusting God when life doesn't turn out the way you plan. Which, if you've been alive for any amount of time, you've encountered a situation or two like that, whether it's life altering or just something that just didn't go the way you anticipated it going. But sometimes we're not always so serious. And so I'm not really sure how today's going to go because my guest today is Heather, a real live friend. Welcome to the podcast, Heather.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I met Heather probably, gosh, 2.5 years ago, I guess, when my son moved to California. Heather is on staff with my son Luke, and they started the exact same day. So I'm pretty sure you were in the office when, or maybe you weren't. Maybe it wasn't until the second visit when Luke, we were there, we dropped him off. He showed us around the office. We talked with Brent, I know, but I don't know if you were there or not.
Yeah, I think I met you guys on your second
Okay.
visit because
Okay.
I met Luke on his very first day. So that was
Okay.
on
So
my first
then
day.
there you go.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I know that you're making your podcast circuit right now. Yeah.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So Slow City Church has a podcast, which my son helps to co-host. And you're doing summer staff series.
Yes.
No, staff summer series.
It's staff summer series. Yes.
Yes.
That's what
So
Luke decided on.
yeah, I like it because you're not summer staff, you are staff, but you're doing this during the summer. And you were a guest on his podcast. And I always listen, not his, but the church's podcast, because I always listen to the church's podcast. And I was like, you did such an awesome job. And the things you touched
Oh,
on, I was like, Heather, you want to come be a guest? So Heather is making the podcast circuit.
yep. It's my new side gig.
It really is. It really is. And I want to thank you publicly here for taking care of my son. I feel like you're like his work mom. Um,
Oh, I cannot tell you how much I enjoy working with Luke. Well, first of all, he is so funny. I mean, you probably know that. Like
I mean, I
his
know he
his
thinks
sense.
he's funny.
Well, my husband, his name is Mark, and
Okay.
Mark's motto is quantity, not quality.
Okay.
So I'm used to kind of like, just throw whatever out there
Yeah.
and whatever lands a
Gotcha.
joke. But Luke he's very quick. He's really witty
Yes.
and
He is. And he's
very
very
quick on his feet.
thoughtful. So he's going to
Hmm.
think things through before he actually says it. So sometimes it lands really well. He's matured in that area. He used to
Yeah.
make up some really corny jokes, but he is funny. So I'm glad he brightens your day with a little humor.
Oh, absolutely. I
And
love it.
you have a pretty young staff. Like I'm calling you Luke's work mom, but a lot of your staff is young.
Oh, yeah. I am almost 20 years older than everybody on staff. I think I'm like, I think I'm 18 or 19 years older than Brent.
Yeah,
So,
I feel you. I work at a church as well, and I don't know all the staff because it's we have a lot of staff, but sometimes I'm like, who are these kids playing grown-ups walking around? Does your
well,
mother
I'm,
know you're here playing, yeah, community pastor or whatever? So yeah.
I'm always so impressed well, mostly because I did not have my act together when I was their age.
Right.
And I don't know, just the ability to be able to be walking around as a 20 something year old,
Yep.
um, developing your faith and,
Yeah,
trial and error and all of that. That's like,
it's cool.
I would have probably rather have done that,
Yeah,
chosen that path.
right. It's a cool
Yeah.
way to live your life, I think. Which we're going to segue into a conversation that you and Luke had. But I think it is really cool to see all the young people on staff and are really strong in their faith.
Yeah.
Growing up in the 70s, it wasn't a thing. And just a little side note about Luke, he was probably I have three kids. He would have been the one I would have chosen last to be in full-time ministry. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He's actually surprised me when he did that here at a church here. And yeah, yeah,
Well, I would have never guessed. It seems
yeah.
like it was just a natural from, day one.
it's been a joy watching him grow in his faith and serving in that manner. So and I know you guys pour
Yeah.
into all the people out there. So thank you for your part in pouring into Luke.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So
Yeah.
let's do talk about when we were young in our 20s. And I did hear you and Luke talking about your college days. Because were you raised in a church?
No, I wasn't raised in a church, not really. I mean, my mom had some kind of a faith. She grew up Lutheran,
Okay.
and so I was confirmed in the Lutheran church. But that's like a 6 week class
Right.
type of a thing, and that was pretty much it.
Was that like
And
what
it's
based on age? Like, did you sort of just age into it, or was it a decision your parents made, or was it your decision? What did that look like?
no, it was my mom. My mom
Okay.
wanted that for some reason. I mean,
Okay.
that's something she just said, we are going to get confirmed. I'm like, okay, I don't
All
even know what
right.
that means, but let's do it. And but that's kind of it. That's kind of all I did. And I mean, maybe just a little. I had a super brief encounter. I didn't talk about this on the podcast with Luke, but I had a super brief encounter. I the only other time I remember going to church when I was about second grade. Again, I went to like a Lutheran. It was a Lutheran church, and I had the fear of God just put into me. Like I
Oh,
remember bawling my eyes out because I
mm,
thought I was going to go to hell, and
yep.
if I didn't, accept Jesus that day, and it was like one of those things. And I actually can remember that day. And
Wow.
my mom probably said, "Okay, let's take a break for a while." And
Yeah.
my dad was uninterested
Mhm.
in church, and he didn't grow up going to church whatsoever. And what I didn't get to finish in the podcast with Luke is my parents did become believers.
Oh, wow.
And both my parents are passed now,
Okay.
and but they were both uh, met Jesus and
That's so
did
cool.
Bible studies and studied the Word together with a small group, and that
Oh,
was really wonderful. But I in high school I had a friend invite me to church, started going to a youth group, and that's where
oh,
I started my faith journey.
really? Interesting.
Yeah, and just I went to high school not too far from here, about 30
Mm,
minutes away from here,
okay.
and south of here, and we're in California, and right now I live in San Luis Obispo. And yeah, I then went to college at UC Santa Barbara,
Okay.
and uh that was
Mhm.
I tried desperately to hold on to my faith that
Mhm.
first year.
Yeah.
um
I
I
think it's a
didn't really have a
difficult.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah I didn't have a community really
Yeah.
of I didn't know anybody else that was really a believer. And then at one point in time, a gal in my on my in my dorm, she invited me to a crew, which is Campus Crusade
Okay.
Christ. It's now called Crew.
Okay.
It's all over the U.S. in colleges. And my first experience there, it was this really weird thing where the leaders of the student leaders
Okay.
had to get up, and they sort of confessed this adulterous type relationship, not adulterous, I'm using the wrong word, they premarital
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
relationship, and
Yeah.
they were pregnant and had
Oh, wow.
all of that stuff. And it was just one of these weird, in early on, I mean that's in the 80s, and so that was just kind of scandalous. And
Hmm.
I didn't know what to make of. Everybody was freaking out, and I thought this is a really
Wow.
weird thing to try to. I didn't know what to do, in
Right.
that
Well, sure.
situation. So
So
I
it's
just sort of
interesting.
backed out.
I could, yeah, I can see that. I was raised in we went to church all the time. And so we went to a Baptist church when I was really young, and that, fire, brimstone, hell, the fear of hell was kind of like,
Hmm.
that was what was preached a lot. And I do remember fighting the feeling every Sunday of going forward. Like I didn't want to go do that. I was scared. Like I didn't want to go to hell.
Hmm.
But I was 11 years old when I finally did give my heart to Jesus. And it was authentically not because I was scared of hell, but because I knew that, I needed and wanted Jesus in my life. However, then I hit my teen years, and
Yeah.
kind of, went away from my faith, walked away. And at some point, you have to make your faith your own. Like, even if you're raised in church and you know it and you believe it, it has to become yours and not about just because that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyway, the college, I think it's even harder now on college campuses, and maybe it's not. Maybe there are more community groups to support other Christians than there was back in the 80s. I know your faith is going to get
Yeah.
challenged no matter what, because
Yeah.
you're in a new environment and with a lot of non-believers, especially
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of think that, yeah, there might be some more opportunities. I think it's more percentage wise, probably. I don't know the statistics, but probably there are fewer
Mm,
Christians these days than there used to be. But I would say what I'm so encouraged by people that are college age right now is that the Gen Zer group or whatever, they're very open
mhm.
to having conversations,
Yeah.
and they're open um to just having conversations and talking about it, at least,
Yeah.
which is, I feel like, a lot of other age groups weren't really there, but
Right, right.
that's what
It's
I'm hearing anyway.
right. Well, and it seems like generations past mine are definitely more into spirituality. Like, I'm not saying it's Christian spirituality, but that
Right.
grow and me growing up, that wasn't really, yeah, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Because maybe because there wasn't a lot of different spiritual beliefs to choose from, or we didn't know about them because this was
Hmm.
a Christian nation, and so God was sort of part of the school system still back in those days. But maybe maybe that's why it wasn't a bigger thing than it is now. It just seems your people are more open to spiritual things, which could be good or bad, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I know the staff at your church is young, but it seems like the congregation is a young congregation as well.
Yeah, that's so we're probably, I know this is small compared to some Kentucky churches, but we're averaging now in the 900s, which is
That is
huge
not
for our
small.
area.
That is not small. I mean, like that's way above average, and even in Kentucky.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Um, I just, my perception is it's different, but I would say 30, 30 might be like the average, late
Okay.
20s, very early 30s. We have so we're a college town,
Yes.
and we have a lot of college kids. I mean, there'll be, I mean, easily a few hundred every
Wow.
Sunday, which is
So
just
cool.
great. I
Yep.
love it.
Yeah.
And then now, this weekend is graduation weekend here. And
Right.
so it's you know, and then everybody in this town, I don't know if Luke has ever mentioned this, but
Yes.
everybody goes on vacation in this town.
Yeah.
This town is like a
It's
ghost
dead.
town in the
Mm.
summertime.
Which
So,
he says it like it's a slower pace life out
hmm
during the summer,
hmm
which you wouldn't think so because it's California, but I get it. It's a college town for
yeah.
sure. I love your town, by the way. It's a great town. But I did want to talk too. Listening to you guys talk on the podcast, the Slow City Church podcast, about your Honolulu adventure. You've lived in a lot of different places, or mostly in California.
I lived all over the world, but I
Okay.
actually never lived in Honolulu.
Oh, you didn't live
I was
there.
no, I
Oh,
was a project manager for this mapping company that I worked for, and so this was, it's kind of hard to explain, but this company is like is is what created the technology commercially for that, what we use probably today in our Google Maps and things
right,
like
right,
that,
right.
MapQuest or
Mm-hmm.
whatever softwares that are out there. And so my company had the city of Honolulu's project for creating their GIS, which is a geographic information system, which is their digital mapping.
Okay.
And that's my I have a master's in geography,
Oh,
and that's what I did for a
cool.
long time.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I
Oh,
wish that I lived in Hawaii, but I did
okay.
get to go and help implement the project.
I
So
mean,
that
that's
was nice.
good because no wonder, like, because you all were joking and saying, so if you ever got lost in in Honolulu, it was you can
My
blame
fault.
it on Heather, and then if you ever successfully navigated it, you can credit Heather. But well, no wonder you didn't even live there. How can you? I mean, I know you have all the tools, but it's like I thought
Yeah.
you lived there, and so you knew the area. Kind of stuff. Okay.
No, no, I wish it was that was wonderful, but yeah, that would have been kind of nice.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. So, you lived all over the world. Like, where else did you live?
Let's see, I was born in Minnesota, and my dad was in the Air Force,
Okay.
so that's why we lived all over the place.
Okay.
I lived in England and Germany. I lived in Alabama for about 6 months, but I was teeny tiny.
I was gonna say, do
Um,
you remember living in England and Germany? You were old enough
I
to remember.
remember living in England and Germany. I don't remember living in Alabama.
That's a
Um,
that's a probably a good thing.
yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, so yeah, but pictures are so helpful for the memory.
Yeah,
And a lot
yeah.
of time, I don't know if it's my memories are based around the pictures or what, but I do have quite a few memories. I did go to preschool in England and kindergarten and first grade in Germany.
Wow.
So
That's so
yeah,
cool.
and then from there we moved to Texas and then out to California. I was able to go eighth grade through 12th grade all in one
Wow,
town, which was kind of amazing.
that is
And then
good.
a week after I graduated high school, my dad was transferred to Georgia.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so I only spent a couple summers out in Georgia.
Okay. So, favorite place to live out of all the places that you've lived?
Um, Probably San Luis Obispo. I really love this town.
I can see why. It is a great
Yeah,
place. I
yeah,
love it too, except for the non-drive-throughs. Like we're so used to drive-throughs everywhere. So that was like, what do you mean
yeah,
you don't have drive-throughs here?
yeah. There's so it's a city ordinance. There can be no drive-throughs in town. Um, Another little old fact from this town is that San Luis is the first city in the U.S. that banned smoking they're in
In
public
public?
places.
Wow, I did not know
Hmm.
that. Also Luke told me, I think last one of I guess his first summer, he was washing his car in the drive, and someone said, "Hey, you're not really supposed to do that. Is that a thing?"
Oh, well, I think, hmm, I
And it's
think
okay. I don't want to
there.
put you on the spot.
Yeah, I haven't heard that except
Okay.
for when we have water
What?
shortages.
Gotcha.
And so sometimes they'll be like, it's highly recommended if you're going to wash your car, like to do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday or
Oh,
whatever, they'll
really?
give you like a, a time period. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I also noticed that your town is very walkable, and so we walk a lot when we're visiting. Walking downtown, passing all these lawns that are very green, but they're not real. They're astroturf or whatever. But the first time I was like, "Isn't that a beautiful lawn?" And Luke was like, "Yeah, it's not real." I'm like, "What do you mean it's not real?" It was, yeah, it was kind of fake
I
because
know.
he says it's you have your green months and then the rest is brown.
Yeah, it's green pretty much from February to May. So we're
Okay,
just exiting our green. And that also depends on rain.
right.
Like this year we had a rainy season. Um,
And last year you had the
and
super bloom thing going on, so you had
yeah, did you get to go to that?
no, we were there on the very tail end. We
Oh,
saw
darn.
a little bit, but no, not in its
Yeah.
heyday.
And just so you know, the super bloom also means super allergy. It's
Oh, I'm
allergy
sure.
season.
I'm sure.
It's crazy. Everybody is constantly blowing their nose and
Which is
just,
normal around here
yeah. Oh,
all the
okay.
time. So, but you guys do have a lot of colorful, like blooming flowers and trees, and I think the blooms make up for your lack of greenery. We don't have that
Yeah,
much.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got in June, the jacaranda trees bloom and they have a gorgeous purple flower and they're just,
Ah,
they're huge, huge trees and they're so beautiful.
aw,
And so those
that's
are
cool.
in bloom right now.
I don't know if I've seen those. I don't know if I've been there in June, but so is there something, and it's okay if there's not, something that you encountered that was difficult to come to terms with, like you went through this, but you were believing God
Hmm.
and it didn't happen quite the way you thought it was going to happen. And if there's nothing,
Yeah.
if there's not, or even if
Yeah.
there is, and you don't want to talk about it, it's cool.
Oh no, that's fine. I feel like, but there's a few times and one of them probably my first challenge was probably when, I like when I was in college
Mm.
and because I was a geography major, geography, environmental sciences, slash there were a lot of hippies in
Yeah,
San Luis,
yeah,
I mean in Santa Barbara
yep.
and area. And uh it, I think that I was just kind of got swept up in the idea that, well, who's to say that their
There's
God
no,
isn't in that
yeah,
tree or in that rock or
yeah.
whatever? And I kind of sort of fell along and
Were
that
you a
sort of
hippie?
drew.
Were you a hippie, Heather?
I was super close. I was this close to
Okay.
ditching the razor, and I had my Birkenstocks. I still love
Okay.
my Birkenstocks,
A lot of people have
but
those. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Cool.
had several pair. But yeah, yeah, no, I was close. I really actually
Really.
kind of contemplated it, and I'm glad I didn't. But it just sort of led me down the path further and further away from God,
Mhm.
and I really kind of, uh, all throughout my 20s, I really didn't come back to the Lord until maybe when I was 27. And so what's that, like 19 to
Mhm.
27? And so and it's not that I didn't ever pray. Um, I think I did, but I certainly didn't have a relationship. I didn't have a
Right.
faith. I didn't have, I think, like the wisdom that I have now of to be able to, even when I don't feel like God is there, that I
Mhm.
can trust that God
Trust that
is
he
there.
is. Right.
Hmm.
That's so cool.
Hmm.
So when did you already have kids when you came back to were you married and when you came back to faith or
No, no, I
no?
know
Okay.
uh no kids. I didn't have kids until my 30s.
Okay. Same.
And um so and that's when, like shortly after I was talking to Luke about this, that when I kind of moved up, I had moved up to the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, and I worked in a super tiny. I worked as in a mapping company, and I worked with the small regional office, and I didn't know anybody, and I was really pretty lonely,
Mm.
uh, and also just sort of I had been fighting this for a few years, just sort of like where what am I doing wrong? Like
Mm.
where how come there's no substance in my life? And I was trying to figure out when was the last time that I had,
Okay.
I don't know, just like I felt like secure or
Mm.
felt true joy, something like that. And so that's when I thought, oh, that was when I was going to church. And that's
That's
when,
cool.
yeah, so that's kind of how that led that. And then
Right.
shortly after that, that's when I was reconnected with who's my husband now. We were friends in high school. And my mom gave him my number at a wedding. And so he gave me a call because he was living up in the Bay Area too.
Mhm.
And so that's when we started. And he had was at a church and was working with middle schoolers.
Mhm.
And he's been doing volunteer youth work for a
Forever.
little over 30 years.
Yeah, I heard y'all talking about that. And also I think it's really cool that you you went searching for that. Like you had the wherewithal, the whatever to figure out, to think about when was it that I was truly at peace, that I felt secure, and came up with the fact that it was when you were connected with your faith. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Yeah.
know a lot of people. I don't know that that's a lot of people's story. Usually, they hit rock bottom and it's like, I need God to help me here. And so that's how they come back. But just to be that introspective, I guess, to think along those lines, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. And it just, and like, then the second that I made that decision, and it's that whole idea of repentance or whatever, and that, it's not like you have to like, okay, I've got to make a choice and then you have to
Yeah,
go on the search for it. God is right there.
you're right.
Like,
Always.
I mean, I could be way off the path,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
way off the path.
Mm.
And, you just do that 180 and
Yep.
he's right there. He
And
meets
that
you
that's
wherever you're at.
and like your little deviation away from the faith didn't surprise him, didn't freak him out. Like he wasn't like, oh no, how do I get Heather back? Like he was always there. Psalm
Yeah.
139. The one that says, I
Yeah.
love Psalm 139. So it looks like our time is coming to a close here. Is there anything else no, I do want to ask you this. So you have a degree in geography
Yeah.
and environmental stuff, and you work at a church. Do you miss that, or how did you end up at working for a church?
Um, so I do sort of miss it, but I haven't done it in so long. And the technology
Right.
is changed so significantly that I just don't know that anybody would put up with me trying to figure it out again, take 6 months to like, okay, now what do I do
Right.
again?
That's funny.
So, yeah. And so I kind of just, was stayed at home mom for many years. I've got two
Okay.
kids.
Yep.
I have a son, who's going to be 27 soon, and a daughter who's going to be 25 soon. And,
Oh,
so so the jobs that I went back to were just more fun type of
yeah.
jobs. But then I don't, we have a couple of different friend groups. Some of them are Christians and some of them are not.
Hmm.
And I, when this, job opportunity came up at Slow City Church, I thought to myself, I need something to kind of anchor me,
Mm.
because it's, you know,
Right.
the world is tricky.
The
It's a tricky
world
place to
is,
navigate.
you're right. So were you guys attending the church? Is that how?
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
And
We started going to church at Slow City Church about, um, I don't know, about 2 months prior to their official launch.
okay,
So
so a while, a pretty
yeah,
long while from almost from the beginning. Well, that's cool. Is there anything in all of your life experiences of people, even like for a mother whose kids have walked away from the faith, is there anything that you would like to say to anybody experiencing something that really wasn't in their planning? Is there, just from your heart, a word of encouragement
yeah,
or something?
yeah. Well, both of my kids are not walking with the Lord right now, and that is something I would have, in a million years,
Hmm.
never believed.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes I get fearful about it, but
Yeah.
for the most part, they've got their word in their heart. They know that. And
Yes.
they, yeah. And
Yeah.
I just have to, I mean, I walked away,
Right.
I came back.
Right.
I feel like, I mean, I feel that's a feeling. I can trust that God
Yeah.
will do what he says.
Right.
And I do think that he's going to be relentlessly pursuing. And I'm constantly praying. I think the key might
Amen.
be to
Yes.
constantly pray
Yep.
for the right person, the
Right.
right friendship, whatever it is, to kind of reel them
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah.
And
I like it.
that's what I pray. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. And I agree that that can definitely happen. And you're living proofs. And God loves our children even more than we do. Sent his son to die for them. And no matter what they get into. Um,
Yeah.
as parents, we worry. As mothers, we are concerned. But
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like God's got them. So it's their journey.
Yeah.
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 Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to and this our time differences, our time zone differences, to spend a little time here with us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. I'll probably see you in September and face to face, sometimes September, October one. Yeah.
Oh, good. Those are the perfect months
Well,
to be
good,
out
because
here.
I don't know that we've been out there then, but Luke is coming home in 2 weeks. He was here in March, so that's kind of different. Usually we go to him, but he's coming to us. So I do miss my travels to California, though. I like it out there. It's
I
nice.
I know. I can't wait. We'll have to do lunch next time you're
Let's
out here.
see. All right, let's see. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us and on this podcast. And I will be back next week. I hope you are too.